Hi, my name is Ari Kaplan and I'm a lawyer, and I've been retained by the Pension Coalition New Brunswick to represent pensioners and retirees in respect of the indexing on your public service pension plan. Last December, the legislature of the province of New Brunswick passed legislation called Bill 11. What Bill 11 did was convert your pension plan from a statutory guaranteed pension plan protected by the consolidated revenues of the province of New Brunswick into something called a shared risk plan. The most significant distinction between your old plan and the new plan is that under the old plan, you were guaranteed cost of living indexing increases every year after you've retired. Under the new model, that indexing is not guaranteed. It's called conditional indexing. That's a major change to your pension benefits. People who have worked for 20, 30, even 40 years in some cases had an expectation that every year that you worked, you would be entitled to a cost of living increase at the appropriate time when you retired. The conditional nature of the new shared risk plan puts that at risk. I believe that the government did not have the legal authority to pass legislation to unilaterally take away your guaranteed indexing. All legislation that's passed by any government in any legislature in the province is not unfettered. All legislation has to conform to what we call the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And what that says is that government cannot unilaterally discriminate against certain demographics in society without just cause. In this case, we say the government did not have just cause to change your vested benefits that you've earned through your work. The government has to comply with the rule of law in the workplace. And by passing legislation the way they did, they've done what no private employer in the country has the legal authority to do. The reason why the government is able to make this change and not a private employer is because the government has the power of the legislature behind it. It can implement legislation subject to the will of the people and subject also to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. From a legal perspective, if the government is going to be making the argument that it can't afford to pay you the indexing that you earned in your workplace, it has to look at all of the different revenues associated and expenditures associated with caring for you in your old age. Because a government is not just your employer, the government is your state. A government has a duty to balance its budget, but the government also has a duty to care for its people, particularly in older age. The problem I have is that Bill 11 is not implementing what was recommended in the government's own report. Specifically, the government said that benefit changes will only apply in the future. They said that each retiree will keep what he or she has already accrued under the plan pre-conversion. The government specifically says that vested amounts as well as indexation already granted to current retirees are retained. However, that's not what they've done in Bill 11. They've made all of the indexing that you've already earned conditional in the future. People who are retired have little advantage available to be able to replace the income lost by the lost indexing. Unlike a 30-year-old who still has 30 years plus of work ahead of him or her, somebody who's 70 has already been through that cycle. And that's what makes seniors different from every other employee in the plan and different from every other taxpayer. And that's why I believe that this legislation unjustifiably discriminates against seniors. You've already spent your years putting in your employment, paying for your pension, paying off the mortgage. And now at the end of the day, at the time in your life where you least have the ability to replace that income, you're being asked to take a gamble. And I believe in all of the circumstances that that does not run in conformity to the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. In conclusion then, 1. The government has passed Bill 11, which is legislation that eliminates your guaranteed indexing increases. 2. You have the legal right to challenge that decision, even though it's been made in legislation. 3, we're waiting for a decision of the Superintendent of Pensions in respect of the legal action that has already been started by the New Brunswick Pension Coalition. 4, after a decision comes out, there may be any one of a number of legal routes that we go to before we get to hear it before a judge. 5, litigation is expensive and it takes some time. There's no guarantee this will be completed before the next provincial election in September. It may take a little while, but that should not discourage you from exercising your rights, because if you don't exercise them now, when? Thank you for taking the time to listen to me today about your pension indexing. I know this is stressful, and that's why we're making this video, to update and inform you as to what the New Brunswick Pension Coalition is doing for you from a legal perspective to help advance your rights. We will update you further as we have more information. Thank you very much.